Hi, and welcome to Your Prosperity, a podcast series on financial topics including tax, wealth creation, superannuation, lending, audit, and many other things that we deal with here on a regular basis at Prosperity Advisors. As with all financial podcasts, any advice you hear in this is general in nature and not to be relied upon. Please contact us for any specific advice. Hi, and welcome to the podcast. Today is the 3rd of February 2023. Time is flying. Today I'm here with Jerry Kennard from Evoke Projects. So Jerry, great. Well, first of all, Jerry, thanks for joining me. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you, Brendan. Great to be with you again.
Well, again, exactly. We've done a few of these
Prosperity
things
this time. Absolutely. No,
instead of branded under yours, we're branded under ours, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
So Jerry and I have done a few podcasts and a few webinars and things, I should say, together, not so much podcasts, but webinars together. Yeah. So seen each other around. And this episode's a bit down the medical theme that we've been doing for the last few episodes of the podcast. We spoke to a few people in the medical industry and how that integrates and how they might assist our medical clients, of which we have numerous and many and lots at Prosperity. So ties in really well and trying to keep that medical theme going. So what are we talking about? Jerry's from Evoke Projects. They do a lot of medical center design. Jerry's a bit like me, I guess. I'm an accountant who looks after a lot of clients, but a pretty big focus in the medical space. Jerry's, does design, build for practices, professionals, but a pretty heavy focus in that medical space, whether it be...
Yeah, we do workplace as well, but our predominant focus is in the medical space. Absolutely.
Exactly. So hence we cross paths a fair bit. So that was a weird and long intro, but Jerry, thank you very much for joining us from Evoke Projects. Jerry, layout, it's pretty simple. You design one, you design them all. I mean, obviously you're going to debunk that statement, but I'll give you the lead-in question. Surely you've seen one, you've seen them all little setups and fit outs are the same.
Yeah, unfortunately, you know what? It'd be so much easier if it was a one size fits all. But unfortunately, every building, every practice, every practice owner has different, expectations of what they want to achieve in the space, what they're looking for the future. And I think that's probably a good thing to start with when it comes to layout, when it comes to what a practice owner wants to achieve in the space, comes down to really unpacking what success looks like for them. And I think that's when we say, design is much more than just a layout. It absolutely is so much more than that. I think there's always a bit of a fixation on the spatial layout of a practice or a workplace for that matter. Doesn't matter what industry you're in. And absolutely it's fundamental. So when we're talking about medical, when it comes to practice flow, when it comes to the patient journey through the practice, how the team operate within the practice, yet there is no ifs or buts. The space plan is essential and it's structural to the success of the practice. But I think we really need to think more holistically than just the space plan. So we often, I love that analogy of planting a seed. If you put a plant in the desert, you're not going to expect it to grow, are you? So that's more around the environment and the conditions that you put people in will definitely dictate the outcome.
So that's the staff, the patients, and I'm sure they wouldn't like this, but I've seen in medical practices where it's an absolute rabbit warren sometimes, and that's just unfortunately a case of expansion and growth, and it just happens. But that's always fun and
some of that exactly right, and some of that comes back to not planning for the future. Begin with the end in mind. I'm a big Stephen Covey fan, and his habits are pretty applicable to every part of life. But especially when you're setting up a practice. So future proofing, yep, absolutely. But getting back to that whole emotional, environmental design versus spatial planning, it's looking at, from the moment a patient enters the door, or the team for that matter, they're all on an emotional journey. So how does it make me feel? How easy is it to operate in? How easy is the practice to get around from a patient perspective? Sometimes it's simple things down to the location of treatment rooms to consult rooms, pathology to amenities, that type of thing. And obviously that's impacted by the spatial plan. But then when it comes to the look and the feel and the finishes, when you look at an environment, it's holistic. So it's looking at all those touch points, including the spatial plan, if that makes sense. Yeah.
And it's often just that perception. I mean, I know this is a completely different industry, but you look at people like the fast food industry, they all have certain colors, certain designs, certain feels, and that's all done deliberately. I'm an accountant and I'm not creative enough to understand that, but I know when you walk in somewhere and you like it, you feel better.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we are a product of the environment we're in, whether that's at home or at work or, at a restaurant when we're chilling out. So I think, that has been missing a lot of the time in I would say in medical and healthcare, especially general workplace, which we obviously work heavily in as well. I would say has been streets ahead of the healthcare industry in this area, because they've had to put the workforce, their team, first in order to attract and retain top talent. And I think that's probably where you look at you guys would know this as well as anyone, but the one of the biggest pain points for medical practitioners right now is attracting and retaining top talent, whether it be doctors, whether it be dentists, whether it be support staff. And you say, well, surely it's not just the physical environment that makes that difference, and absolutely not. So, that leads me into talking about what is a people-centric practice. And it's so much more than just the physical space. Without people like you on their team, to help with those leadership strategy, creating what the business looks like from a leadership and behaviors and strategic standpoint, is just as important as the physical environment, but also with the systems and processes, when it comes to technology and having those systems to support the team and the patient experience. So long-winded, but in short, I think you've really got to look at design is, whilst we design practices and workplaces, we're really about helping practice owners and workplaces succeed. And the physical part of space, or the physical environment, and the design of the physical environment is only just one part of that equation.
And it's a bit like, as I said, I'm an accountant. I'm not creative enough, obviously, to get it. Well, not obviously, but I'm not to get involved in that sort of thing.
Underestimate yourself, Brendan.
To me, it's the dark arts, right? But I get that it's important that, no, as you said, no doctor leaves a practice because the tea room was in the wrong spot. You never see that in an exit interview or anything like that, or not. When they're leaving, you never hear that as the gripe. But those things, while it's been known for many, many years, those little things all count and build up to a perception, to a feel for the nurses, for the doctors. Even you jump on a website and you look at the, first thing you see is probably the reception area on someone's website. That looks nice. So, there's a lot of those little things that really add up. And why not create something that feels good, that will assist you and definitely not detract from that?
And one thing to add, absolutely. And one thing I think to add to that is it doesn't have to be expensive. And I think there's this perception out there to have a nice practice has got to cost a bomb, and it doesn't. It's about being clever with the level of finishes, and the look and the feel. I suppose the level of finishes comes down to your target market and understanding your target market, the demographic that you're serving. It's not so much about just throwing money at this. It's really understanding your business, your practice, who you're serving, and then designing to reflect that, to attract that, and to retain that.
And that's interesting, I guess. So you'd have different designs based not only on the budget of the client, but I guess on the affluence of the area, or what type of
demographic
of doctor they are. What do they specialize in? Is it GP? Is it bulk billing? Is it private? Is it?
Absolutely. It's got to reflect, and there's got to be it's got to be in alignment. Otherwise, you'll have someone come in and they don't feel comfortable, or else they go, I'm being ripped off here, because it's just not their cup of tea. So understanding, and I suppose that goes back to that whole approach of being holistic when it comes to design, is understanding the business, understanding the practice and what they want to achieve, who is their target market, where do they want to be in 5 to 10 years? So not just 5, 10 years. And I see it so often, or we see it as an organization, where take an aspiring practice owner wants to start up their first maybe And yeah, they've got a limited budget because obviously it's their first and they've got to get runs on the board. But they do need to think about size, because if you grow and 5 years down the track, you've outgrown your practice, then what? You spend all that money. What a waste of money. So one
Build the rabbit warren. That works.
Yeah. Just fill it up. Yeah. No, and it does come up from time to time. And our first thought is always go for a larger space, even if you stage the works. So we've had examples of that where it's worked really well, where they've had a limited budget and they might have fitted out 2/3 of the space and they leave a third, stage it, and that's future growth. And I think that's a very good approach when it comes to future-proofing the practice. And I mean, you would buy into that from an accounting and a strategic planning viewpoint, I suppose. That is, don't limit yourself by thinking I can only start with, if it's dental, a 2-chair practice, or if it's GP, 3 consult rooms and a treatment room, small treatment room. Think bigger. And if you can't afford it right now, stage it.
Yeah. And even if it's, and the accountant in me is also going, oh, don't spend too much on it as well. But I get it. That's because I'm the accountant and that's, I'm conservative.
But it's got to be return on investment. It's all about ROI. And I think that's probably where you and me probably fight a little bit between our cohorts, is that we look at, when it comes to return on investment, yes, absolutely. When it comes to designing, it's about revenue generating spaces. But when we put our hat on of creating successful practices that have a people-centric culture, you do have to think of the team and the space they have to operate in. So there's a bit of a fine line between, how much space do we give to the team just for breakout, just for recuperation, versus we could turn that into another consult room and give them a hole in the wall.
My head's around a GP practice with another room. That's a lot more income we can generate.
And I get it's not tangible to look at the return on investment with your team. But when you look at how hard it is to recruit and the cost of recruitment over retention, it becomes a bit of a no-brainer.
Oh, and I'm
not as easy to put figures on paper, but
and that's why I know I'm good at what I do and where I advise, but I think you need those other opinions to help grow a successful practice. That's a big part of it.
Yeah. And Brendan, it's a balance, isn't it?
Yeah. No, 100% agree. And I'm, as I've said many times, I know I'm not the creative side. So that's not my strength, which is why we talk to people like you. And and I think one of the things you do well too is I find, to me, fitting out a medical practice is about making sure there's, PowerPoints in the floor for the dental chair or something like that. I'm sure that's just, that's the
plus maybe some suction and some
put some plumbing in there too. That's the gist of my medical fit out sort of brain the way it works there. But obviously there's a lot more to that. And I think what's really good is what you guys do. I guess you create, what's your thing? You explore, design, create, or something, your little tagline.
It's a process.
But you guys will design it, then you'll build it, and and we'll design it. You'll think about it, you'll build it, design it, and build it, as opposed to, here are the architect plans, let's give that to the builder. Something gets lost in the translation, and then it isn't quite what you wanted.
And good point on that, because I think that holistic approach to due diligence, which is explore, understanding will this space work for us? Can we stack it up cost wise? And then design and construct, being with the one company. It not only saves time, but it also saves. We see a lot of situations where, a typical architect scenario, where it's spec'd up to, what looks nice.
But is that Italian granite there?
And when it comes to the accountant, you go, well, hold on, this is a bit over budget. And then it's back to the drawing board. So I think that's where our design team and our costing team work hand in hand very, very closely to create the ultimate practice or the ultimate space within the budget. And budget is such a prime part of the design brief. You can't separate it. That, I suppose, is what I'm saying.
No, I agree. And I think that's good that you guys are, I think another term used, the cradle to grave it kind of thing. You're involved at the start, you get involved, you design, you build, and it's done. Finished product from what you talked about originally.
And like from my perspective or our perspective, if we can set up a practice owner for success from day one, whatever success looks like, whether that's one practice or whether that's 15 practices, that journey, cradle to grave, they need to be thinking about where do they want to be in 20 years? What's their end game? And how do we get there? And if we're part of that journey, great. Whether that's one or whether that's 15. And I get that's probably what you guys do too. But there's no bigger joy, is there, to see a practice owner set up for success and we come back in 3 years and they're pumping. For us, that is success.
Yeah. And for me, it's similar. Like I've got clients that started with me first year out of uni, and they were sort of working in the hospital and still studying and wanted to be a specialist, and now they're running practices themselves and very successful, which is fantastic. And
that's brilliant.
It's really good to be on that journey. There's other things we can go into, but the gist, I guess, is great that you want to be involved from the start. It's more than just let's get a builder, let's build something, let's get going. You've really got to think about the strategy, and probably opens my eyes up all the time a little bit about, it's not just let's build a medical center. It's, well, what do you want to do with it? Where do you want to go with it? What's the future plans? Absolutely. Here's a budget, here's a plan, here's a build.
Who's the demographic we're serving? Make sure that we're actually answering to the needs of the community that you're actually wanting to service.
Yeah.
And I think that's critical. And again, it's critical when it comes to attracting the top talent that you want on your team and the type of talent you want on the team.
All those little things that me as an accountant, my non-creative brain won't picture, but get that there is a skill in that, and there is absolutely, it's important. So,
but look, I'll come back to you on that score. That's why we have people in our network like you guys, because people, I feel practice owners, they need access to this talent pool of experts that can help them set up for success from day one. And that, you're a part of Practice Success Collective, and that's what it's there for.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is working well.
Yeah, exactly right. So that's a little group we do, Practice Success Collective. Been on a few GPs, dental ones, things like that, where we get a group of people together, or Jerry basically gets a group of people together who have that industry knowledge and do some great little podcasts too, or great little webinars, I should say.
Summits. We do online summits, and we do a startup summit once a year, but then we also do growth summits for every speciality. So you'll have the opportunity to see and hear Brendan definitely in that process.
Absolutely. Very good. Yep. Jerry, thanks very much for coming on the show. Really appreciate it. Thanks for your insights. And hopefully there's a few people out there going, that makes a bit of sense, and we should get more involved with that. If people want to contact you, Jerry, what's the best way? Email, I'm assuming?
Probably email. Yep. jerryk@evokeprojects.com.au.
Yep. Perfect. Probably Jerry with a J.
Jerry with a J. That's it.
Great. We'll put some notes up in the podcast as well. But yep.
So we could probably also give you a link to book a time if someone wants to chat. There's no obligation, but if you want to learn more, let us know.
Fantastic. We'll put some details how people can get in contact with you. Thanks for joining us. Thanks everyone for listening. Really hope you enjoyed the podcast. For more information about Jerry, go into the notes. For more information about Prosperity, just jump on the website, prosperity.com.au. I'm Brendan Campbell. Like and subscribe to the series, guys, and you'll get more great little podcasts like this. Thanks, Jerry.
Thank you. Thanks, Brendan.
Thanks for joining us for today's podcast. Hopefully you liked it, and if so, please give us a few stars, like and share. And if you'd like to follow the series, please subscribe and pass any information on to your friends as well if you think they might like it. For more information about who we are, head to prosperity.com.au and follow the links.